Well, looky here. You are listening to someone who is bold, authentic, diverse, unpredictable. Baby, I am unapologetically Ramon, and you have entered my zone, the QB zone, baby. Hello, somebody.
Rock Legion.
Yes, as usual, it is your boy Ramon Marquise, and I want to thank you guys for coming on down to the QB zone another time. Listen, after the results of the recent election, I want to share with you some deeply personal thoughts and concerns that have been weighing heavily on my mind. As an African American man, I've always believed in the power of unity, love, and understanding. These aren't just words to me, they're the principles that guide my life and shape my worldview. So, in this episode today, I want to explore, or I will explore, these values and how they intersect with our current political climate, particularly in light of recent events that have left many of us feeling afraid, angry, sad, and uncertain about the future of our nation. First off, I want to touch on just the simple foundation of my beliefs. Embracing all people. First and foremost, I want to empathize that my life is enriched by the love and connection I share with all people. This isn't just a platitude, it's a foundational and fundamental truth that I live by every day. When I say all people, I truly mean it. Regardless of color, in a world still grappling with racial tensions, I believe in looking beyond skin color to see the humanity in each individual. Irrespective of socioeconomic background, whether someone comes from wealth or poverty, their worth as a human being remains the same. Regardless of religious preference, faith is deeply personal, and I respect the diverse spiritual journeys of others. Regardless of sexual orientation, love is love, and everyone deserves to be accepted for who they are. Regardless of nationality, in our increasingly interconnected world, I see the beauty in our global diversity. This inclusive approach to life isn't always easy, but it's incredibly rewarding. It opens doors to new experiences, perspectives, and friendships that might otherwise miss out. And I don't want to miss out on those. Then there are just simple constitutional rights and human courtesies. I'm a firm believer in the fundamental rights outlined in our Constitution. These rights form the bedrock of our democracy and protect the freedoms we hold dear. But beyond these legal protections, I also believe in the importance of basic human courtesies. These courtesies are the small acts of kindness and respect that make our daily interactions more pleasant and our society more cohesive. They include treating others with respect even when we disagree, listening actively and empathetically, offering help to those in need, being patient and understanding in challenging situations, and acknowledging the dignity of every individual. When we combine our constitutional rights with the basic courtesies, we create a society that is not just legally fair, but but is also compassionate and harmonious. I have a power for love, understanding, and empathy. And at the core of my beliefs is a trio of values that I consider essential for not just my personal growth, but also for societal progress. So, first, love. Love is the broadest sense of many words and is the force that binds us together as a human family. It's not just romantic love, but the kind of love that motivates us to help a stranger in need, inspires us to fight for justice for others, encourages us to forgive and seek reconciliation, drives us to create a better world for future generations. When we approach life with love, we naturally become more open, more generous, and more connected to those around us. Then there's understanding. Understanding goes hand in hand with love. It's about making a genuine effort to see the world from someone else's perspective. This involves educating ourselves about different cultures and experiences, challenging our own assumptions and biases, seeking out diverse viewpoints, especially on complex issues, being willing to change our minds when presented with new information. The pursuit of understanding is a lifelong journey, but it's one that enriches our lives and broadens our horizons with each step. Then there's empathy. Listen, empathy takes understanding to the next level. It's the ability to not just intellectually grasp someone else's situation, but to emotionally connect with their experience. Empathy allows us to truly feel the joys and sorrows of others, respond with genuine compassion to those in pain, build deeper, more meaningful relationships, and it helps us create solutions that address the real needs of people. In a world that often feels divided, empathy is the bridge that can bring us back together. We all know that everybody has their own personal political views. I want to talk about political views and how it mixes with personal integrity. I identify as a proud Democrat, aligning myself with many of the party's core values, such as social justice, environmental protection, and economic equality. However, I want to emphasize that my political affiliation doesn't blind me to good ideas from other sources. I have no hesitation in supporting non Democrat views if they align with my personal beliefs or contribute to the betterment of all people. I feel that this approach is crucial because, number one, it prevents partisan tribalism that can divide our nation. Number two, it acknowledges that no single party has a monopoly on good ideas. Number three, it encourages more nuanced and thoughtful approach to politics. Number four, it sets an example of how we can disagree without being disagreeable. By maintaining this open minded stance, I hope to contribute to a political discourse that is more about finding solutions than scoring points. In today's political climate, it's more important than ever. It is more important than ever to maintain personal integrity. This means being consistent in applying our values even when it's inconvenient. Admitting when we're wrong or when we've made a mistake. Calling out unethical behavior even within our own party. Prioritizing the greater good over personal or party gain. By holding ourselves and our leaders to high standards of integrity, we can work towards restoring our faith in our political system. Because I know many of us, our faith in it is shot to hell. Now, let's really get real and specific about current political concerns. So, first, I want to mention this is a time of uncertainty and fear. This is a topic I want to address. This is a topic that has been causing me and many others significant distress. At the re-election of President Trump, someone who believes deeply in unity, empathy, and the fundamental rights enshrined in our Constitution, I find myself hurt, afraid, and highly disappointed by this. My concerns about Trump's return to office are rooted in his past actions and rhetoric, which I believe, as I believe many do, they have been harmful to the fabric of our society. First of all, the man has divisive language. Trump's tendency to use inflammatory language has deepened divisions in our country, often along racial and ethnic lines. Then there is his erosion of trust, his frequent disputes with factual information, and attacks on the media have contributed to a climate of mistrust and confusion. International relations. His approach to foreign policy has strained many of our international relationships, potentially weakening our global standing. There are allies we had for years under the Bushes, under Obama, and just as sure as he put his behind in office, we lost them. We regained some of them with Biden and Kamala. Trust and believe some of our allies, he's going to cause us to be enemies with them again. Once again, it's been his pattern. Climate change denial. His skepticism towards climate science goes against the urgent need to address this on a global level. This is a global threat. Then we all know healthcare. His attempts to dismantle the Affordable Care Act without a comprehensive replacement plan puts Americans at health risk. Then there's immigration policies. His very harsh stance on immigration, including family separations at the border, goes against our values of compassion and human rights. Let's not forget when he had his last administration. Soon as he gets into office, soon as day one starts, let's not forget he did this and he had people in cages like they were animals. Okay? This man is a threat to democracy on a normalcy level. Perhaps most concerning are the actions and statements that seem to challenge the very foundations of our democracy. Attempts to overturn the results of the 2020 election, The events of January 6, 2021, and the response to it. And let's not forget, he plans on pardoning and releasing everybody who's involved in that. Then there are his attacks on the integrity of our electoral system, undermining the independence of the Justice Department. But let's be clear, his threats go even deeper, touching the core of our constitutional democracy. The man has a blatant disregard for the Constitution. One of the most alarming statements we've heard is the suggestion of terminating parts of the Constitution. This is not just rhetoric. This is a direct attack on the document that forms the bedrock of our democracy. The Constitution isn't perfect, but it's designed to be amended through a careful, deliberative process, not discarded at the whim of a leader or a dictator. You really want to be honest. Then there's the dismantling of critical institutions. This man wants to eliminate. He is literally gung ho on eliminating the Department of Education. While we can debate the role and effectiveness of federal agencies, completely dismantling an institution responsible for ensuring equal access to education and protecting students' rights is a drastic step that could have far-reaching consequences for our society's future. Well beyond his ass no longer being in office, this is really going to have a far-reaching negative effect, ramifications, and all. Then there's the sense of intimidation and violence. Instead of promoting unity and growth, there's a troubling trend of using intimidation and even violence as political tools. This approach goes against everything our democracy stands for. It creates an atmosphere of fear that can silence dissent and stifle the free exchange of ideas that is crucial for a healthy democracy. Then, this is literally, for me, the thing that makes me fearful the most of everything that I've addressed and then some. The number one thing that makes me fearful and concerned is his desire to give law enforcement immunity. In light of the ongoing issues with police brutality, particularly against unarmed African Americans, the proposal to grant broader immunity to law enforcement is deeply troubling. This move could further erode accountability and trust between communities and those sworn to protect them. As an African American man, I find this especially terrifying. We need reform and accountability in our justice system, not less oversight. These actions and proposals don't just threaten specific policies or laws, they strike at the heart of our democratic system. They represent a shift away from the principles of checks and balances, equal justice under the law, and government accountability that have defined American democracy for centuries. The issues that I've discussed have a particularly profound impact on the African American community. And I want to dig into how these challenges specifically affect us. To truly understand the gravity of these issues, and their impact on the African American community, I just want to share a few stories and examples. I'll never forget the day a former client, and for those who know me, I'm a social worker by trade, 10 plus years. I'll never forget the day a client, a bright college student, called me in tears. He had been pulled over for a routine traffic stop that turned into a nightmare. Despite complying with all the officer's requests, he found himself face down on the pavement, handcuffed with the gun pointed at his head. His crime, a tail light was out. This experience left him traumatized and shattered his trust in law enforcement. It's a stark reminder of why granting broader immunity to police officers is so terrifying for our community. We need accountability, not impunity. I can say for myself as a black man, scared to leave my goddamn house. And it's not even like, I'm scared to leave at night. It don't matter. If cops get immunity, they don't have to have a tail light to stop you. They don't have to have you running a stop sign to stop you. They don't have to have reasons such as it's nighttime and you ain't got your headlights on. With them having immunity, they can stop you for whatever reason they want to stop you. They're having a bad day. They have a quota to fill. Somebody pissed them off, so it's like anybody can get it today. Like, they can have any reason to stop you. God forbid you look like someone who they feel shouldn't be driving the type of vehicle you're driving. Or you look like somebody who they feel shouldn't be living in or driving through such a neighborhood. These are all some of the reasons why we get stopped. No weapon, no aggression, nothing. Not trying to resist arrest, nothing. Completely 100% cooperative. So explain to me how the hell you end up in the grave. How? Or if you're blessed to live through it, your ass up in the ICU. Critical condition. Then there's the struggle for quality education. I remember a young man by the name of Jamal. Brilliant young man with dreams of becoming an engineer. Despite his talent, Jamal's school lacked basic resources. No advanced math classes, outdated textbooks, and not a single functioning computer in the computer lab. So when we talk about dismantling the Department of Education, I think about Jamal and countless others like him. Without federal oversight and support, how will they ensure that students in underserved communities have access to the quality education they deserve? Then there's the impact of voter suppression. During the last election, my elderly neighbor, Miss Johnson, was turned away from her polling place. Mind you now, this woman had voted at the same location for over 40 years. 40 years she had been going to the same location. But suddenly her name wasn't on the rolls. Despite having her ID and voter registration card, she was told she couldn't vote. Calls, emails, even having support of legal assistance to sort out what they called a clerical error that had purged her from the voting rolls. Now, how many others in our community have faced similar obstacles but lack the resources to fight back? These stories are not unique. They represent the daily realities faced by many African Americans across our nation. They underscore why the issues I've shared are not just political talking points, but these are matters of life, dignity, and basic human rights for our community. The proposal to grant broader immunity to law enforcement is especially alarming for African Americans because we've witnessed countless incidents of police brutality against unharmed black individuals, and the lack of accountability has led to deep seated mistrust between our community and law enforcement. Granting more immunity will only exacerbate this issue, potentially leading to increased fear and anxiety in everyday interactions with police, further erosions of trust in the justice system, and a sense of powerlessness in the face of systemic oppression. Then, when you talk about voter suppression, listen, attacks on the integrity of our electoral system often disproportionately affect minority communities, including African Americans. Tactics such as closing poll stations in predominantly black neighborhoods, implementing strict voter ID laws, purging voter records. These actions make it harder for our voices to be heard and our votes to be counted, effectively diminishing our political power. Then there's economic inequality. The dismantling of critical institutions like the Department of Education could have severe consequences for African American students. This department plays a crucial role in enforcing civil rights in education, providing financial aid to low income students, and supporting historically black colleges and universities. Without these protections and support systems, the already significant educational and economic gaps could widen even further. Then let's talk about the healthcare disparities. Attempts to dismantle the Affordable Care Act without a comprehensive replacement plan would hit the African American community significantly hard. We already face significant health disparities, including higher rate of chronic diseases, lower access to quality health care, higher uninsured rates, and let's not forget the fact that the mortality rate with pregnancy amongst black women, and then the fact that so many of black women alone don't get taken serious by their health professionals. Now, losing the protections and coverage provided by the ACA, Affordable Care Act, could exacerbate these issues, leading to poor health outcomes and increased financial strain on our communities. With all these issues, with all these concerns and fears, I do believe that there are some potential solutions and a path forward. Right? So what is it? Number one, civic engagement and voter participation. And I know it's probably too soon to talk about this because most people has just completely just been saddened and angered by the recent election. But let me just say this. Organize voter registration drives in African American communities. Have these voter registration drives in our community. Provide education on voting rights and the importance of local elections, not just president. I think that's also a thing that I feel like the awareness and education has definitely progressed recently than it has in olden days. But I feel like there's still a lot more education and awareness to go that specifically in our community, we need to realize how important local elections are. And then I feel like support and volunteering for candidates who prioritize racial justice and equality could help as well. Next, I want to mention, police reform and accountability. What's the path forward for them? What's possible solutions? Advocate for comprehensive police reform, including mandatory body cameras, de-escalation training needs to be a huge thing. It needs to be a huge emphasis on de-escalation training. Independent oversight boards, separate from IA, internal affairs, and all them. No, a separate independent oversight board. And support community policing initiatives to build trust between law enforcement and African American neighborhoods. Then there's education and economic empowerment. Push for increased funding for public schools in underserved areas. Support programs that provide mentorship and career guidance to African American youth. Advocate for policies that promote entrepreneurship and wealth building in our communities. Wealth building in our communities. And I think a great part of that is to um, collaboration with the Bank Black USA program. That is such a great program to benefit our urban community. Bank Black USA, look it up. There is building coalition and alliances. Foster partnerships with other marginalized communities to amplify our collective voice. The Asians, the Latinos, the Indian, and so forth. Engage in dialogue with those who hold different views to find common ground and build understanding. And support and participate in civil rights organizations that fight for equality and justice. We can't sit around and be mad about what just took place. The fight doesn't end just because we may have lost one little battle. That don't mean we're going to lose the war, right? And so a next thing is media representation and narrative control. Support African American owned media outlets and content creators. Challenge stereotypes and misrepresentations of our community in the media. Share our own stories and experiences to counter false narratives. And the last thing is legal and policy advocacy. Support organizations that provide legal assistance to victims of racial discrimination. Engage with local and state lawmakers to push for policies that promote racial equality. Participate in public comment periods of proposed legislation that affects our community. Listen, let me get real personal and direct with y'all for a minute. As we navigate these challenging times, let's remember that the true strength of America lies in its diversity, its capacity for reinvention, and its enduring commitment to the ideals of freedom and justice for all. I know what you're probably thinking. Just hear me out. While I'm deeply concerned about the potential direction of our country, I'm also reminded of the resilience and strength of the African American community. We've faced seemingly insurmountable obstacles before, from slavery to Jim Crow, and we've not only survived, but we've thrived. Our history is one of perseverance, creativity, and unwavering hope in the face of adversity. It's this kind of spirit that we must channel now as we face these new challenges in these new days to come. By holding fast to our values of love, understanding, and empathy, by engaging actively in our democracy, and by never losing sight of our shared humanity, we can work towards a future that reflects the best of who we are as a nation. We must continue to fight for our rights, to lift our voices, and to stand in solidarity with all who seek justice and equality. Remember, change starts with each one of us. Every act of kindness, every stand for justice, every bridge we build across divides. These are the things that truly make America great. Let's commit to being the change we want to see, to loving our neighbors, and to never giving up on the promise of a more perfect union. To my fellow African Americans, I say this: our struggle is not over, but neither is our strength. Let us draw inspiration for those who came before us. From the civil rights leaders who faced dogs and fire hoses, from the countless unnamed heroes who risked everything for the freedoms we enjoy today. Their courage and sacrifice light our path forward. And to all my Americans, regardless of race or background, I say we are in this together. The challenges we face affect us all, and it will take all of us working together to overcome them. We need to choose unity over division, hope over fear, love over hate. This is a different type of episode of the QB Zone, but I want to thank you for listening. Let's continue this important conversation. Together we can create a future where all people, regardless of their differences, can thrive and feel valued. At least that's what I want to believe. The path forward may be challenging, but with love, understanding, and empathy as our guides, I believe we can overcome any obstacle and build a brighter future for all. Our journey towards true equality and justice is far from over. But together, I do believe that there will be better days where we would have made it a reality. Now listen, this is not going to be any different at the end of this episode than any other. You know I got to leave you with a quote before I let you go. And so just listen to these words and marinate on them. In the face of division, let our unity be unbreakable. In times of darkness, let our empathy be the light. And when challenges seem insurmountable, remember, our strength lies not in our differences, but in our shared humanity. Together, we can build a future where justice and equality are not just dreams, but realities for all.